But first, it's looking increasingly likely that Australian voters will be heading to a double dissolution election, the first in almost 30 years. The potential for this historic event that cleans out both houses of Parliament is all over a body that's not even widely understood. But the Australian Building and Construction Commission, or the ABCC, has become a make or break policy for our nation's politicians. Its supporters say the ABCC is essential in tackling serious and endemic union criminality on building sites. Critics say it would unfairly single out one group of workers and wield powers even the police don't have. Connor Duffy has the story.
This is the ugly face of conflict and thuggery on building sites that continues to spill onto Australian streets and courtrooms.
You're just about to have a heart attack. You're shitting yellow, you piece of shit. Go and brush your teeth next time, you piece of shit, all right?
The government believes reforming it is so important, it's threatening an early election.
Last year, the federal court, in one of the judgments, said, has there ever been a worst recidivist in the history of the court, in terms of the CFMEU's blatant disregard for the law?
It comes against the backdrop of a royal commission the government says documents appalling behaviour, but the opposition calls a witch hunt.
This is not a case of a few rotten apples spoiling the whole barrel. There are many union officials and widespread cultures of impropriety and malpractice.
Malcolm, stop obsessing about trade unions and have a look at what's in the best interest of workers and cooperative environments.
The workers united will never be defeated!
The debates turned nasty and personal, with the union accusing the minister of ignoring recent deaths on building sites.
We've got a workplace relations minister who had a rails run through top private schools, through Freehills, the Liberal Party's favourite lawyers, into Parliament, who stands around reading swear words into Hansard like a parrot. She hasn't expressed one bit of regret or remorse for the deaths of those workers. That's bad behaviour on building sites, not a bit of swearing.
That is just an absolutely disgusting claim. I don't think there is anyone in Australia who, if they have ever met someone who has had a fatality within their family on a work site, or as a previous lawyer, I worked on 2 cases where people had been killed. It has a profound effect upon you.
Employment Minister Senator Michaelia is making the government's case for reinstating the ABCC on the grounds it'll improve productivity.
It's the 3rd biggest employer in Australia. In excess of 1 million Australians, 1 in 10 Australians rely on their job because of the building and construction industry.
How are you?
I'm well, mate. Good to see you.
Oh, I don't want to take you out, mate.
That's all right.
No.
The ABCC was established by the Howard government in 2005 and scrapped by Labor in 2010. Unions say it unfairly targets one group of workers and gives the Commission too much power, including the ability to compel workers to give evidence in secret hearings.
Hundreds of trade unionists and supporters rallied outside the Magistrates Court in support of Rigger Arc Tribe.
Construction worker Arc Tribe was charged in 2008 for failing to answer ABCC questions about a union safety meeting. He was facing 6 months imprisonment and was pursued through the courts for 2 years before winning on a technicality.
You have to answer all the questions. When you leave that court, out of that building, you are not allowed to tell anybody, not even your spouse, about what questions are asked of you in there. So my immediate thought was, well, bugger you, I'm not going to that.
Why did you refuse?
Because, that's a kangaroo court. It doesn't belong in Australia in a democratic system.
Today, Arc Tribe is living on a bush block in rural Queensland and doing it tough. He says construction employers would no longer hire him and his 30-year career came to an end. He worries other workers will be dragged through the courts.
I think I was in a courtroom about 11 or 12 times over that 2-year period. I was so relieved at the end, I'll tell you. It was amazing. I was nearly crying on those courthouse steps.
Barrister Ross Dalgleish was a founding Deputy Commissioner of the ABCC. In a rare interview, he's described carrying out 100 of those controversial interrogations.
We were dealing with reluctant witnesses who wouldn't come forward because of the potential union consequences, but they were able to turn around to the union and say, they made me do it. If I didn't go in and give evidence, I could have been prosecuted. Therefore, you can't blame me for cooperating.
Yep. What were people so afraid of from the union in terms of their reluctance to give evidence to you?
Well, if you give evidence against the union, you'll find that if you're a head contractor, that your sites will suddenly be stopped.
Dalgleish believes the Commission's work lowered the number of strikes and increased productivity.
The amount of money that is involved in building and construction is, of course, enormous. It's a huge part of the economy and a huge part of the GDP.
Oh, yeah! Not a coward like you, you piece of shit. Look at this.
The former Commissioner admits the ABCC failed at changing the culture on work sites, but blames that on the election of Labor in 2007.
When the Rudd government came in, that the perception was that the government didn't support the ABCC any longer, and that therefore the unions would just wait until the ABCC was abolished. And that meant that employers were threatened with get square time, you know, once the ABCC goes.
No, that's a completely silly proposition that was put around in 2007. They should come up with some fresh bullshit rather than repeat old lies. New lies will do them better than repeating old lies.
Since 2010, a Royal Commission and numerous court judgments have slammed the CFMEU for having a deplorable lack of regard for the law. And in his letter to the Governor-General asking for Parliament to be recalled to vote on the ABCC, the Prime Minister cited widespread criminality in construction.
You and I go to work every day and we have to comply with workplace laws. Why is it that within the building and construction industry it would appear that those workplace laws do not apply?
Mr Turnbull lied to the Governor-General in that letter because he knows, and George Brandis, the Attorney-General, knows, that the ABCC or the Fair Work Building Commission have not got any jurisdiction over criminal matters.
In the last 2 days, Fairfax Media has exposed a major international corruption scandal, and Labor says corporate crime is being ignored. The allegations include claims the offshore arm of Leighton Constructions paid millions in bribes in Iraq.
The government's not taking corporate crime seriously. It's not taking white-collar crime seriously. There's a two-tiered system here. The enormity of white-collar crime, the enormity of global corruption that's been revealed in recent days has gone completely unchecked.
The Senate is due to return to discuss the ABCC legislation next month. Labor and some of the crossbenchers will push to extend the scrutiny to the corporate side of the construction industry.
We're going to be calling in some of the biggest names in Australian business and have them explain how it's been that global corruption on the scale that's been revealed in recent days has continued to go on unchecked.
Connor Duffy reporting.